Similar sort of stuff happened in Stud Road not too long ago. We planned this bus lane, we built it, and then there was a whole lot of protest. The local member asked the people what they thought. The people said we hate it because we like driving our cars, and so we removed it. Similar sort of thing in Toronto. In comes Mayor Rob Ford, 10 years of transportation planning and the Transit City plan out the window. However, he did keep the bit that was underground. And that's probably where we come to the interesting stuff, the pragmatic strategies. And that's sort of where we're coming from first. Because if you think about it, Mayor Rob Ford doesn't care if the transit goes underground. That's great. So that's a pragmatic strategy. We can prioritise transit by going underground or going above. There's not going to be a huge amount of political opposition from people like Mayor Rob Ford. That's fine. It costs a lot of money, and us engineers with our BCRs and things like that probably aren't going to like it. But it is a pragmatic way of prioritising transit. So yeah, it just comes down to, can you get the money, and are you willing to spend the money on doing that? Another pragmatic approach is similar. We can do subservient priority. And we see this in Melbourne with Smart Bus. It gets the bus lanes every now and again, but you can still turn left from inside the bus lane. So, and the Eastern Freeway bus lanes, they run along the shoulder. So we haven't made anything worse for car drivers, but we have prioritised transit. Another pragmatic way of introducing transit priority in a city like Melbourne. Something that's been going on the tram network around here is this idea of bottom-up and incremental transit priority. So you do small things, and you do them over time. So we've been doing all this sort of stuff around Melbourne, and no one's really been noticing. We put in this yellow curbing, plastic curbing, and then we came back 5 years later when it was time to fix the tram tracks up because they were getting old, and we made it into a real curb. No one noticed. We were quiet about it. No one really got all that upset. But bottom-up, it's people like us, engineers at the bottom level, just doing our little bit here and there. Trials and pop-ups are sort of exciting. Boston's done this thing with this pop-up bus lane. They got out there with some cones, and surprise, Monday morning, we're putting out the cones to make the bus go faster. They didn't tell anyone. There was maybe a short article in the paper on Saturday. No one really knew it was coming, and it turns out it was a great success. And they got on the bus and they asked everyone, what do you think about the new bus lane to the city? And everyone said it's fantastic. And so the pop-up was retained. They just kept on putting out the cones, month after month after month. And eventually, they managed to get some cash together and they put down some lines instead. And, if it doesn't work, low risk. Pop up, pop down. We put out the cones, everybody hated it. Oh well, we won't put them out tomorrow. That's fine. Pragmatic strategy. Similar sort of approach we're seeing in Toronto at the moment. They're doing this big transit pilot down the middle of King Street. And so again, a pragmatic strategy. All you got to do is convince everyone that, yeah, we should give it a shot. We're not going to keep it. We'll just give it a shot. And then you manage to get enough stuff that you can have a trial for a year. And they're in this spot right now where they're trying to decide whether to keep it or not. But you can see now it's a two-step process. Hey, we've got this big problem. Maybe we can try some stuff. Hey, we tried some stuff. Do you want to keep it? And I reckon in Toronto they probably will keep it because the idea of going back to where they were before is now very politically unpopular. And then, of course, we can do what us engineers love. We can write this ginormous report. We can have a ginormous inquiry. We can do this big, huge rational thing and say, yes, transit priority is the way forward. Quite often, I think you'll find that there's a whole lot of inaction and our report doesn't really get read or no one really cares. But if we're lucky, we might manage to implement it. And we've seen this happen in Toronto. And so I suppose that's where I'm sort of getting to the end of this. In transit priority implementation, we'd love to think that we're really close and we've got to be able to move from car cities to transit cities really easily. But unfortunately, it turns out that we're a long way away. It's actually quite hard. And it's not the technical stuff. It's the policy, the politics, the legitimacy of how we use our road space. And so what we actually need is some of these pragmatic approaches. We don't need yet more technological solutions. We don't need a great new way of creating bus lanes. We need pragmatic strategies to get us a little bit further on, because we're not going to get there any other way. I suppose that's where this PhD that I'm doing at the moment and trying to finish up is. We've been building this framework and sort of come out with these sort of 5 pragmatic strategies. I think that's probably about all I have. Again, thanks to the supervisors, Brian Curry, Jeff Rose, and of course Alistair Cumming.